Hello. Okay, so let me close that down and it should be recording that window. And let me get into my presentation. So Jean and I were going backwards and forwards because I adore Jean and I am so upset I am on an international flight on Sunday afternoon. Otherwise, I would be in the workshop because she's just jam-packed with information. And she came up with the idea about a pencil calligraphy class. Let's take away the ink. Let's take away the mess. Let's take away the stress because we all know what a pencil is. Pencils are friendly. Pencils are loving. We've all got them in the house. We can never find one that's sharpened when we need one. But a pencil is a tool that we know and love. You can write with a pencil underwater. You can't write with a pencil in space. Creates dust. They don't like that, right? And they are one of the ubiquitous tools in our lives. So when Jean lined up her curriculum, I said, I've just bought a book. And I had literally bought this book about a week before Jean and I started talking. So the calligraphy gods had a plan. Now, let me tell you about this book. Most of this presentation comes out of this book, except the images and some of my spin. This book has 3 chapters on how to sharpen a pencil. If you need a definitive guide on pencil, this is it. Who's the author? Henry Petrosky, The Pencil, A History of Design and Circumstance.
Can I just say one quick thing? When we talked about this, you said, this is such a nerdy thing for me to read. And then I told you that 3 years earlier, I had bought 2 books, volume 1 and 2, of a history of bookcases.
Yes, that's right. So once again, Jean,
I think that's nerdier.
it is. Jean is all things nerdy, right? This is our Jean. She can even one up a book on the pencil. It is a great book. It is better when you've had a glass of wine. It is dry as dirt. But if you want the history down to the last granule of graphite, this is it. And it is fascinating because what we don't appreciate is that the pencil is the story of our lives. We've just never quite realized that. Pencils are what you learn to use when you're very small because they're safer, less messy. And they become something that you slip into your diary, that you have in your day book. And we get fancy pencils and we get glitzy pencils and as you get older, because today's the last day that I'm working, I'm retired, you go back to pencils because ballpoint pens just aren't fun. And fountain pens, trust me, I've got a collection of them. Bad things happen with those. And now I've become quite the propelling pencil nerd. So the pencil has been the fabric of my life, and it is the fabric of all of our lives. The Smithsonian Institute put out had an exhibit 15 years ago in Washington. Okay. Called After the Revolution, Everyday Life in America from 1780 to 1800. And they had tools of all kinds on displays. Tools that a carpenter used, tools that a mason used, tools that were used day to day in the house, in great detail, historical examples of those tools. But what was missing was the pencil because people just used it. It's like us and electricity. It's just there and we forget how amazing that tool is. And it helps if I can run a computer.
Or they got used up and the nubs got thrown away.
Well, and that's very true too. Henry David Thoreau, who wrote the book of the Walden, he was known for keeping detailed lists. Any activity, any trip, he had detailed lists. He was a nature observer, and he would collect samples, and he would, on his lists, he would say, I need to take a magnifying glass. I need to take things that if I can preserve a sample, I can bring it back, or I can mail it, or it's too big, so I'm going to sketch it and do a watercolor of it. He had blotting paper impresses for plant samples. These are all on his lists of everything for all his different expeditions. His friend, Ralph Waldo Emerson, said in his pocket, he always had his diary and a pencil. And there's a big exhibit of him and his life and his findings and his explorations out in the East Coast. But we have to think about what was the day job that funded these expeditions. And it was a pencil company. His father bought a pencil company and he helped run it. The Thoreau drawing pencils. Now, if you go to the Henry David Thoreau exhibit in his house, there you can find his lists, you can find his diaries, all written in pencil. You won't find a pencil. Not even from the Thoreau company from this era. And there's what this label is visible. There's a box of these pencils, right? Isn't that lovely? One gross of pencils, 144 pencils, right?
Do you know what the 1, 2, 3, 4 means on that label?
Hardness,
Oh.
I'm guessing, because he was one of the guys who started coming out with hardness. And we'll talk about that a little more. And that was the original numbering system, was a number 1 pencil, a number 2. And a number 2 pencil translates to an HB, hard and black. Okay. And then a pencil is the tool of democracy. They're available. They're cheap. You know, we can go and spend $100 on a fountain pen, but we're going to write the same stuff as we would with a 10-cent pencil. Pencils allow children to be educated around the world. Pencils allow women to be educated. There are 2 things that drive the education of women in Africa: a source of light and a writing tool. Because the women are in the fields, the women are cooking, and when it gets time for them to learn, it's nighttime. And they should be going to sleep. So they need a source of light. And that's where the Coke bottle light comes in, that a woman in Holland, a 16-year-old in Holland invented, and something to write with, a pencil. When we think about design, when we think about architecture, engineering, art, sketching, the lists you make at home, school projects, flying, even now, pilots still use pencils in the cockpit because ballpoint pens are not reliable at altitude. So they've got their iPads and they've got all their computer stuff and all their logs are in pencil. But we don't use them in space. Pencils are used as part of learning. The Da Vinci Bridge is something that my kid did in STEM class in, I don't know, 6th grade, where kids given rubber bands and pencils and said, now you've got to make a bridge that you can put 10 pounds on. And it was a bridge that Da Vinci designed originally. So pencils are used in all these different ways, and they're just the way that education is made available, art is made available to people of all class, economic status, ability, and geography. So let's look at understanding the pencil's history from early times through to some of the modern pencils. So when we think of a pencil, we can go back to what they call a Roman stylus, something typically made of lead that was a point, and when you drew with it, it made a mark. Jean teaches an amazing class on silver point that I still use. Some of us wear pinky ring, and you write in a greeting card and you make a little goldy or silvery color on the card. That's using your ring as a stylus. You're transferring some of that metal to your writing surface. The word pencil was first used in the 14th century, so it predates the use of what we think of as a pencil, which is made with graphite. It comes from the Latin penicillus, meaning little tail, and was first used to describe an artist's brush, where you would take a reed and you'd shove squirrel hairs into the end of the brush, tie it up with a string. And that was called a pencillus, and you could draw with it. But that shape, that design is basically what a pencil is today. In medieval times, they started using lead, because if you take lead, so if any of you having your roof redone and they're using that lead, like a lead tape, ask them for some of it and then put your gloves on, because that's how the Mad Hatter went mad, right? It's lead, exposure to
They
lead.
don't let you use it in Minnesota.
They don't?
No.
It's like cadmiums, right? Up until 3 months ago, we couldn't use cadmium.
Crazy.
Yeah, and lead. So if you can get your hand on lead, it makes a beautiful dark mark. But it never became a pencil. You can't sharpen it. So this notion of pencils having lead is a misnomer. So this is graphite. Graphite was first used in the 16th century, and early instruments were coming out of England from an area called Keswick, where the Pencil Museum is, because you go to Birmingham to see the Pen Museum, you go to Chiswick to see the Pencil Museum.
Road trip.
Oh, absolutely. And so what they were doing was taking a piece of the graphite, wrapping string around it, because the graphite makes your hands dirty, and, you know, go berserk with it. If you were trying to erase it, you take a piece of bread, and the moisture in the bread would lift the graphite. Now, English pencils, the graphite in England became so valuable, they stopped mining it. Graphite is mined in seams. So this area, they said, we're only going to mine it 3 days a year. And people are like, but we want more pencils. 3 days a year, so we can keep the price high. That's where the term black market comes from, where people would try and break into this area and mine the graphite to get the thing that was making the black mark. And then they'd sell.
And do you know what the geology is where graphite occurs? Is it sandwiched between?
It's pipes.
Igneous stone?
I don't know. The kind of stone I can't tell you. It'll be in my book. Trust me, it's in my book. There's about 17 pages on this area in England. So this area just outside of Borrowdale in 1564 was where this graphite mine was, but it's pipes of graphite is my understanding. And it's an area. Then they started looking at, this is the oldest pencil we have physically. 17th century, this bad boy, you are going to find him in the Faber-Castell Art Museum in Germany, where they took the graphite shards, the flat flakes of it, wedged it between two pieces of wood and made what we would think of as a carpenter pencil, a flat square pencil. And this was like going to the moon. This advanced the accessibility, it advanced the cleanliness, because up until then they'd been wrapping it in string and twine and stuff like that. It became transportable. It meant it could go in a toolbox easily. And it became a very practical writing tool. So all the companies that we think of as making pencil crayons, making pencils, Koh-i-Noor, Faber-Castell, Staedtler, they all have art tool museums. And they're still with us making art supplies that they started making 400, 300 years ago. So that's just gives you an idea of the longevity of their basic tool, which was a pencil. And then they started making colored pencils, and then, you know, you get fancy. So for the longest time, pencils were this flat shape. Then production during the Industrial Revolution started getting more sophisticated. Tools were being manufactured where you could cut and shape wood. Typically cedar planks are what pencils were made out of. And we could start looking at a pencil of the shape that we pretty much still use today, because this design allows the least waste of wood. So you would take a plank, you'd cut grooves in it, you'd lay in what they called lead, but it was graphite, put the plank on top, glue them down, and then you'd half shape them, flip it over, half shape it, you got a pencil. And that's a side view of them. And these are straight out of this book. Took pictures of it.
Is your book covered pencil sharpens?
Yes. And we will too. Oh yeah. Yeah, and erasers. Yeah, it's
still my heart.
It's a hell of a book. You are welcome to borrow my book. And so as pencil manufacturing became more and more sophisticated, so did the demands of people using pencils. So now they started looking at, if we take graphite and we mix it with clay, we can make a harder pencil. And it's a lighter pencil. If we start using fragments of graphite instead of those little rods that you can get, then you can make a darker pencil, because the graphite is basically just falling apart on you. So the guy we started out with, he had 1, 2, 3, 4. The Germans had one standard. The Americans had their 1, 2, 3, 4 standard. The British came up with a different standard. And along the way, the entire world, except the US, came up with the H and B standard. In the US, pencils are still, US pencil manufacturers, and there are a handful of them, are still producing like a number 2 pencil or a number 4 pencil. But a number 2 pencil is an HB pencil, which is not on this chart. It's the one like just here. Oh, it is. Yep. Number 2 up top there. So it's hard and it's black. It's easy to sharpen. It keeps a good point. The harder the pencil, the better the point. So when I'm ruling lines on vellum or pergaminato or something really fine like that, I use a 4H. And I'll show you the pencil I use. So pencils don't contain lead. It was an English language misnomer that graphite was lead. So when we talk about the lead of the pencil, they have never contained lead. Even though the guys in America were calling them lead pencils, because people knew lead gave you a blacker line. They knew that from working with lead. So we're not using lead. Graphite means writing stone. It was an invented word to get people away from this lead. We're still inventing pencils. The pencils are still changing, they're still evolving, they're still coming out with the better pencil, almost like a mousetrap, right? Still coming up with the better mousetrap. So Faber-Castell, which is a very interesting company. So if you buy a marker from Faber-Castell and the color is 24 carmine, and then you buy a watercolor pencil crayon that says 24 carmine, and you buy a regular pencil crayon, 24 carmine, they are the same pigment. So it doesn't matter what your medium is, you're going to get the same color, which is interesting. So they came out with a pencil that has these little grippy dots on them. It's a triangular shape. This shape, it's not hexagonal or six-sided. And you can buy, where's my notes? You can buy 12 for $26 at Walmart. Again, a democratic tool. So this is our, leading type of pencil. Go buy it at Walmart. So nowadays, pencils are still made in a very similar way to what we looked at before, with the pieces of wood and putting the stuff in and gluing them together and cutting them. But the graphite and the clay is crushed into a powder and baked. Now, Chinese pencil lead has become the world's premier pencil lead, because you can't get the really good stuff from England anymore, because guess what? They still won't mine it on an ongoing basis. So you can go to the pencil museum and you can buy a pencil from the museum with the original graphite. It's like 10 pounds. Black market is alive and well, right? American pencils were known for being messy. The graphite broke. It was very granular. It didn't keep a very crystalline structure like the British did. So American pencils originally were frowned on because they tended to become dusty. And when you put your hand over it, you'd smear. And so a sign of prestige early on in the American pencil market was having a British pencil. And people would get a box of pencils for Christmas. And it was expected that 6 pencils would last you a year. And then you'd get them again next Christmas. That was like, getting big Lego empire builder type thing. Now, American production techniques for the 4 or 5 companies that still make pencils, Blackwing, I'm looking at you, are regarded as superior products. Most of their lead is actually most of their graphite is actually manufactured in China, and China are now adding plasticizers into this mixture of graphite and clay so that the nib has a bit of flex to it. Because you think about when you sharpen a nib sharpen a pencil to a real fine point and you put it on paper, what's the first thing that happens? Breaks. Because graphite is a crystalline structure and it's brittle. The Chinese have figured out putting plasticizers in there. So now you get a bendy lead. So sometimes you get pencils and you go, this is such a nice pencil. You get that feeling? Good pencil. You hide it from the children. Its chances are fairly good. It's going to have what they now regard as the Chinese graphite blend. It's got plastic in it. And they're smoother, they don't shard, they don't.
Most of the pencils we buy, say at Walmart, made like that now?
Most of the cheaper ones have the plastic in them now.
It's cheaper to produce.
Yeah, I mean, pencils on the whole, when Conti came up with this is, Conti pencils, same dude, right? When he came up with this design, they're still made like this. The difference may be they're not using cedar planks. Some of the wood they make pencils from now is a mold of sawdust and glue. And it's high pressure impact molded, and then they bake it. They don't glue the two halves together like they used to, because most of us, I know when I was growing up, I'd get they still make a red and black striped pencil. And when I was at school, all of our school supplies were government issued, and we'd all line up for our one red and black pencil. You got one. And if you lost it, you had to go home and your parents had to buy you a pencil. And you couldn't get the red and black Stapler pencils because the government had cornered that market in South Africa. And you come to school with a yellow pencil, which wasn't as good. But those pencils, very often when I was little, they'd break in half. And it's because of those two boards being glued together. So modern pencils evolving, continuing. We're going to keep seeing pencils changing as people are losing their fine motor skills. Those of you who teach small children, I teach calligraphy every May to 5th graders at a Catholic school in Fargo. And I am seeing how these children struggle to hold a calligraphy marker, because at 5th grade, they're on their computers. They're not writing. I used to have projects where the kids cut out little birds, and then they'd write words on them, and we'd go hang them in the trees outside, almost like weathergrams, except they were little birds. And kids struggle to cut out little shapes. Okay? So fine motor skills are meaning that your average thickness of pencil for smaller kids and older people, because we're all living much older now, we're getting arthritis in our hands, things like that. You're starting to see pencils become thicker and thicker, so you can grab them. I've seen a pencil that has like a ball. It's only a pencil, it's like a golf pencil. It's about that long, and it's got a ball on the end, and you can hold the ball. So pencils continue to evolve. They continue to evolve to adapt to our modern physiology, our aging population, and the fact that younger people simply do not have both the hand-eye coordination and the fine motor skills.
So they probably can't write as nice of calligraphic letters either.
Half of them can't write.
That's right, and they can't read, right?
They can't read it. Yeah, makes me insane. So if you've got a pencil and you make a mistake, we don't always want to grab a slice of bread. But that is still the gold standard for the quality of graphite in your pencil. So if you get a really expensive pencil, take a slice of good sourdough bread and see if you can erase it. Wonder bread doesn't work, by the way.
Sourdough.
I find sourdough works the best. Because again, I used to live in a house with children. My children have all left now. And I could never find an eraser. Bread. But this guy, Hyman Lipman, in 1858, comes up with what they called the pencil crown, where you take a piece of India rubber. India rubber was developed by a guy called Goodyear, who made tires. And you put it in a little collar and you glue it on the end of the pencil. And Goodyear called them pencil heads. And if you're reading like some of the Dickens books and early 1900s books, you'll hear people talk about the head of the pencil. And I always thought they meant the point. but it's not. It's that little eraser on the back end of it. That was your pencil head. What kind of point do you want on your pencil? And this is different jobs have different points. Now, I get excited with something that's sharp and it stays sharp for a reasonable amount of time, right? But there are recognized standards. 3 chapters, people, 3 chapters of ways to sharpen a pencil depending on how you're using it. Because if you are using it in a submarine engine, you need a different point than if you're using it on land. So different professions sort of created their own standards for what your pencil would look like and how it needed to be sharpened.
Can you fill us in on why different for us?
Because of the logbooks. And it had something to do with the logbooks on a submarine were in a metal case. So you couldn't put your hand on the paper. So you needed a really long point. The whole thing, 3 chapters. 3 chapters.
US subs.
German, because the Germans would do that kind of stuff. Exactly. So,
Nuclear or not?
oh, way back. Yeah. The gold standard for a good pencil point was whittling one. And pencil sharpeners per se are relatively new. But there were people who had the job of sharpening pencils because they would take their knife and they'd get it perfectly smooth. And then big breakthrough in pencil sharpening was sandpaper on a disc that you could slide your pencil in, and it would then refine your whittled point and make it beautifully smooth and pointy. Huge productivity increase. It was called the Gen. Had this
one of those in the antique shop.
I know.
I don't know what it is.
Exactly. And I mean, it just looks fantastic. And then we needed to move into, you know, pencil sharpeners per se. So right up until the earliest 20th century, so still up until, call it 100 years ago, you were going to whittle it with a penknife, sand it down with sandpaper, or take it to a wall and just smooth off your whittling, right? Then they invented these small handled pencil sharpeners, which look suspiciously like the pencil sharpeners in my schoolroom, or most, I teach in Moorhead Education Center Vista, and they have something that's a little wider, but it's the same idea. You put your pencil in and and it's got like a little rotating disc for longer points and shorter points. Breakthrough technology. Breakthrough technology. Put the pencil sharpening people out of a job. And then there's this one that I absolutely love. This is like, you know that kitchen thing where you put your onion in a thing and you go whack, 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 whack. That's the version of it for a pencil. You put your pencil in the side and there's like blades and it scoops around your pencil. I can't believe it was that efficient, but I know there are days when I would love to have this, shove my pencil in it and go whack, 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 whack. Because I would feel a lot better sharpening my pencil.
Oh, man.
On the side.
Oh.
Yeah. 1913, the new era pencil sharpening. So then I went to go and have a look at John Neal. This is our temple of worship as calligraphers. Please support our small business people who are importing tools. They have two versions of this pencil. This one is 5 millimeters wide. It's a propelling pencil, and it's great for practicing calligraphy. So it's like a carpenter pencil, but it's a propelling pencil. Mechanical pencil is what you guys will call it. They have another one that's 3-ish millimeters wide. It's like 2.8 millimeters. And you can buy the replacement leads for them. And these are what I travel with. I used to, because I'm now retired, I used to spend I still spend a tremendous amount of time in airports. And I would carry a parallel pen until after the third time a parallel pen leaked on me. And I switched to these pencils. And they're great. You just sit, practice your letters.
Do you sharpen them on sandpaper?
Yeah.
Or what?
I sharpen them on sandpaper. I do. Or the underside of a bar. You're sitting in an airport bar and you go, I don't have sandpaper with me. So you just reach under the bar and you're like, and you go like 45 degrees-ish, 45 degrees-ish. This'll do. You know, you're just trying to get in that general direction, right?
This thing that's a flat piece of really thin wood and it has layers of sandpaper on it, then you can
That's
just.
what it's.
That's for
Right.
pastels, right? But you
Right.
can use it for these.
For that, right.
Yeah,
Yeah.
look at you. Then for those people who want to work on dark papers, you can buy a white pencil. If you're working on a dark paper, you need to use a dark eraser. Do not use your white Stadler plastic eraser on dark paper. You leave shiny spots. You can buy a black eraser. And you can get one that's like a little triangle or just a block of it. I get those at Jet Pens. And I use my white pencil on my dark papers, let everything dry, and then I can erase it with a dark eraser.
Jet pens.
Jetpens.com. Jetpens.com is where I buy my parallel pens. Yeah, it's a little bit like going to the dark side.
The materials for this coming Saturday, one of the helpers there said that the regular pink eraser would be okay in their flavor.
I would not. Those pink erasers should be, you should use them to throw at squirrels in the garden.
Okay, thank you.
What about a kneaded eraser?
Needed, depending on, that's a great question. So you know what a kneaded eraser is, okay? So I love a kneaded eraser because it allows you to take off a level of graphite and just leave you with the imprint, the pale gray, right? If you use a kneaded eraser on black paper, use a dirty kneaded eraser. On white paper, you use a clean kneaded eraser. So how do you clean a kneaded eraser?
Erase.
Pull it,
Oh, you pull it.
stretch it, and then take a sheet of white paper, or if you're sitting in an airport bar under the window, and just rub that pencil off of the eraser. Kneaded erasers are fantastic. I have found on Arches do a beautiful 90-pound black paper, super smooth. I can't use a kneaded eraser on it. I can't use anything except a black eraser. It just shines up that paper. So erasers are, we could have a whole session just on erasers because that's a whole, well done, Janie. It's a whole rabbit hole in and of itself.
That's chapter 25.
Yeah. I think there's 1.5 chapters on erasers in this book. My husband was like, are you ever going to finish that book? And I'm like, can I have another glass of wine, please? So you can buy these white pencils at Hobby Lobby. I don't shop at Hobby Lobby, but the dressmaking section, Joann's, Walmart, they're great for working on fabric. And that was their original purpose in my world. But this is and Dritz is a sewing product brand. There's another one out there that's a red point. And I use that for illuminated manuscripts when I'm doing rubrication, when I'm doing the red things, because it's a lot easier than doing it the old fashioned way. But it does not erase. It is mean to erase.
The red, can you also get that at Hobby Lobby?
I bought it at Cornelison's in London. So I don't know. And chances are at a fabric, because it's not a Dritz brand, but it's used for sewing. But it's not the Dritz brand, it's a German.
Sounds like it might be really good on stone. Yeah.
Yes,
To touch up your Tracy line.
I would think so.
Oh, that's very expensive.
But it'll last you
Yeah,
1,000 years.
lifetime.
You are gonna lose this before you use it up.
I will for sure.
I have a one spot in my
Yes.
downstairs studio, and that's where the white pencil and the red pencil live. And I have 2 studios in my house, and it's only in one. It's like anybody moves that, you die. My children aren't allowed in that room. I would lock it if I could. And you can buy the replacement lead. So those people who do a lot of work on dark papers, it's very, very soft. It's not quite chalk, although you can take a piece of chalk and put it in a pencil sharpener and sharpen it, and you can draw lines with that, but it goes blunt so fast. So this gives you a nice consistent line. And then this is the mechanical pencil that I use for all my lines. It's 0.2 millimeters. It's incredibly fine. I use a 4H lead if I'm working on vellum or perg or something really soft like that, and an H lead on paper. And when I draw my lines, I don't go, I go dot, 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 dot. So I'm just putting little lines down because I hate erasing. So this one, it's called a no break. I think this is, do they say here that it's no break? You must use very light pressure, okay? Because you can cut with that. So that's why I do my little ching, 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 ching. But I
You
love
would
it.
score a paper pretty quickly. too.
Oh yeah, yeah, and it's great. I mean, sometimes like on vellum, I want to see the score line. So I just, especially when I'm doing historically accurate documents.
Why would you use a soft graphite for doing lines? Because then it can be erased so easily.
But then I end up making smudgy things.
Yeah, but I would think with a hard H, you're going to leave indentation.
And that's why you go very softly.
Oh.
But I like that. I like leaving pencil on my work. I want people to know a human did this. It didn't come out of Canva or Photoshop. So I leave, I can't say I very seldom go in and erase. I do go in and erase where pencil is like right in like the gap of an N or something. I take that little monoline eraser that's really tiny, and but I like the H, except if I'm working on vellum, I use a 4H. Some people like a B. Who was it who wanted us to rule everything with B's? I'm going to say Charles Pierce, but that's not right because he hasn't taught here for a long time. I think it was Michael Gold uses a B. But I don't like a B because as my hand is going over it, it starts smudging. Especially if I'm wearing a glove on my hand. But that's me. You know, and I grip a pen like I'm going to kill it. I've got a very, very strong grip on my pen, which is not good. But, you know, the fear factor is high when I'm using a pen. So those are some tools that I find useful in the pencil world. So to wrap this up, we're going to look at how do we use them? How are people using them? It's still the tool for precision in artwork, especially if you want to be able to do on-the-fly corrections. Those people that are now working digitally are finding that if you do thumbnail sketches in pencil and then you go to the computer, you get a better result. But if you go straight to the computer, that physical act of is way more creative. That's when your brain fires than sitting in front of a computer going, I should do a fancy M. But if you've done some sketches and played around with it, then go to the computer, you'll get a better result. And it's a very flexible tool. You can shade, you can layer, you can create textures. There's lots and lots of ways of using pencil to create something that is visually pleasing. We all know some of the Dura, look at that little guy just taking a walk. Leonardo da Vinci used pencils, early forms of pencils. He used silver point, that notion of using a tool to make a mark on something. Albrecht Dürer, his stuff is legendary, right? So, if you have nothing else to do and it's a cold, snowy winter, nothing is impossible. This is micro art, where they've taken a pencil lead and they've now carved into it. This little train is coming out of a pencil. So think of the height of a lead that train is made out of. I want to have time on my hands like that, right? And vision. The Queen Jubilee in 2012, the Pencil Museum in England went to her and said, would you like a Jubilee pencil? And she was like, I'd love a new pencil. It's been, 10 years since I got my last one. Paul Antonio, who we know as a copperplate pointed pen calligrapher, he now lives in Portugal. He had a nib made by it's the Hero Leonard EF Principle, which is the first new nib that the manuscript pen company had made in 100 years. So it's their latest design of a pointed pen nib. Who knew? And he said, I used a script developed in England in the 17th century called English round hand. It's a very difficult hand to master and was made doubly difficult as the surface of the pencil was curved. It's a round pencil. This pencil was handcrafted and has a sparkling white, gold, and diamond crown designed in Germany and has 60 diamonds on it. And the little it's got white gold lilies to symbolize royalty. So if you've been on the, if you've been queen for 50 years, you too can have one of those. Hobby Lobby. Yeah. Yeah. So that was fun. There is a lot of debate about the world's largest pencil. People get really serious about large pencil wars. And this is at the Derwent Pencil Museum in Kaese. That's the name I've been trying to say all night, which is where the original graphite deposits are and the black market came from, right?
Kaese.
Yes. And yeah, you know that, right? And there's their world's largest pencil. Now, Staedtler have their version of the world's largest pencil, and these people will fight it out and, we'll have pencil dueling at midnight.
It's a giant pencil in the front yard.
Hang on. Hang on. We're getting there. During the World War II, now you've all heard about Q in the James Bond films, right? The guy who comes up with all the curious devices. He works for MI9. MI9 arrived at the Cumberland Pencil Factory, just up the road from Keswick, and said, when we send people behind foreign lines, we need them to have maps to figure out where they are and how they can get home. But if they're captured by Germans and they've got, you know, a big AAA fold-out map kind of a thing, the map will be taken away. So how can we give people a map in an object that the Axis forces won't say that's a map? So they came up with a map that folds on the inside of a pencil. So that's your World War II secret map pencil. You can buy reproductions of it at the Keswick Derwent Pencil Museum. 61 pounds, people.
Oh, man.
You're going to have to want a good map. Lastly,
There we go.
they have a 20-foot tall pencil was sculpted out of a mammoth oak tree at the home of John and Amy Higgins. The beloved tree at Lake of the Isles in Minneapolis was damaged in a storm a few years ago. Everybody was sad. A couple even wept. But the Higginses saw it not so much as a loss, but as an opportunity. So they had crafted this pencil statue in their front yard. Every year, they have a sharpening ceremony on their front lawn in the leafy neighborhood of Lake of the Isles. They wanted to do a pencil because everybody uses a pencil. So it was an object that people were familiar with. People love their pencils. We all have our favorite pencils. And they knew it was an art form because when they shave the pencil, when they sharpen it, they're shaving it. And this pencil's getting smaller and smaller. Eventually, they'll be down to a stub.
Do we have graphite in it?
I don't know. I don't know. I spent so much time.
It doesn't get dull.
Well,
You know,
what I heard was, what I read was that this is a tree.
was a
right?
tree.
It
Yes,
was a tree.
was a tree.
And the roots are still there. It's still
Yes.
working. And that's why they sharpen it, because it gets taller. not
And it's
shorter.
got things coming out the top, probably.
Yeah.
That would make sense. So I'm going to try this video. I don't know if it's going to work, but
Really, like no other at Lake of the Isles in Minneapolis. The community getting together for the 4th annual pencil sharpening ceremony. And if you think sharpening a pencil can't be a party, you would be sorely mistaken. Sammy Selena shows us. It is the 4th annual pencil sharpening here at Lake of the Isles, and I gotta say, people here are located pretty sharp. The 20-foot pencil certainly sticks out among the oaks in the neighborhood. It actually was one at one point, but a storm damaged the tree. And then artist Curtis Ingleside turned it into a sculpture. Homeowners brought in Amy Davidson. Her pencil stood out.
watch the shavings coming off.
You know, we figured we could start to sharpen it every year. So why not? It's a living sculpture. But yeah, we figured we might be doing it for 50 or 100 people. Never expected this crowd.
There goes a shaving.
And it gives people a little diversion, a little bit of fun, and kind of, you know, let loose and be silly, which we need that in life. Don't worry, it is an annual event, so if you didn't get to it this year, don't worry, you can cancel it in for next year. Thanks, Selena. Here, let me do
When?
Yeah, we gotta get that.
Yeah, it's the first,
I have to look that up.
I think it's the first weekend in June, if I remember correctly, but don't. Yeah.
I watched Pier 11 for 10 o'clock news, and I've seen this report before, so.
Yeah, so they said they've taken anything from 3 to 10 inches off a year. They haven't decided, for this year, they hadn't decided how much to shave off. They're okay knowing that they could reduce it to a stub one day. And then they said, like any ritual, you've got to sacrifice something. This is the guy who designed this pencil. So we're sacrificing part of the monumentality of the pencil so that we can give that to the audience that comes and say, This is our offering to you and in goodwill to all the things that you've done this year. So we may think that every time you sharpen a pencil, you're sharing some of the goodwill behind a pencil.
Now,
Whoa. So that is my talk about a pencil. Why it's important to us from a history of the world, our future, and a reminder that very often it's the little things in life that give you the most joy. So find a good pencil and enjoy it.
Now we need to take a picture of you by that, with your book.
I'm desperate to go. I said to my husband, what do we think? Because I was working on this on Wednesday night. And I think they said it's the first weekend in June, but I
Now
could
that
be
you're
wrong.
retired.
I know.
Well,
So-
we'll look it up and we'll.
And we should all go.
Like make it a little field trip.
And we need little calligraphy pencil pads.
Yeah.
And I mean, these people dressed like old pencil, they got the whole.
We could go and with those flat pencils and demonstrate like making people's names and bookmarks with
Exactly.
the pencil.
We'd have a ball.
We went, my husband and I went, I saw it for the first time, I didn't know about it at all. It's from 2017, I think, when they
Okay,
did it.
started.
Yeah, so I didn't know it was there, and you can park right next to the house, I mean, it's got a big front yard. And then you don't even have to go on their land, I stood on, when I sent you those pictures of it,
Yes.
I stood right on the sidewalk.
Jean
It's wonderful.
sent this to me and I was like, this is not real. And behold it was. Behold it was.
So it's on the Lake of the Isles Parkway.
Yes.
Road.
It's right on, the lake is on, right across the road. From the big house, where they're all big there.
Yeah.
Right. With their big 8-foot tall
Field trip,
pencil.
guys.
I think so. I think it's,
It's bigger than 8 foot,
yeah, what did I say it was?
Yeah, it's really
it's a
tall.
big one.
now.
20
the
foot.
tradition is really, like, no longer, they could be out of any. Our community getting together.
Shush. And there are some other videos out on YouTube about the pencil sharpening.
There's
And
also some videos of pencil sharpeners. I don't know how it got into my YouTube.
We were talking about it.
It was 3 or 4 different of those antique pencil sharpeners and just demonstrating.
it's fascinating.
It was, so
It is. I found that chopper thing and I was like in love. I want that chopper thing and I can shove my pencil in there and just go bang, 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 bang. And maybe then when I have a nice sharp pencil, breathe and I can do some calligraphy because I will have, got it out of my system.
We set up the lead to break inside your wood shaft of your pencil.
I just,
With that banging. on it.
exactly. I just don't think, and that's probably why nobody's copied that design and we don't have them now. We have that rotary type, go round and round.
Our last meeting, Jean had an example of a pencil sharpener for colored pencils that.
Well, it's for any pencil, so that's the one that I'm recommending for tomorrow.
Grindy, the vertical one.
Box.
No,
No, the little box?
No, it's got 2 little ears on it that, and something comes out, you stick the pencil in
Yep.
and you go. Like that, you get a really good sharpener for colored pencils because it doesn't eat up the pencils.
Right. And there are a couple of them out there.
Yeah.
And you
Same
want a
line.
pen, because your colored pencils tend to be softer. You want something that, colored pencils are expensive, so you don't want it lobbing off half an inch of your pencil, right? And you want something that isn't going to, it's just gonna like polish the front, take off a little bit of the casing and just polish that nib
That's
to
what-
get it back to a nice point. And you just want something that's really gentle. You don't want to take it into your elementary school.
Or
You
the
can also
electrical
have a
ones
good
that.
joke. about Thoreau.
Yes.
Throw me that pencil.
Oh, we could.
That's a bad joke.
It's a great joke. So those of you that haven't signed up for Jean's class and you're now regretting it, remember there's time and there's honey involved and she's a honey. So you can bring your pencils and we get involved in that. Next month, Georgia. I love spending time with her. She's a phenomenal bookmaker. She used to teach and she may still be teaching at Minnesota Book Arts, Minnesota Center of the Book Arts. She's a great teacher. You will learn a lot from her and hopefully that'll work. Are we still doing Play Day in December? Play Day in December in person up at Maple Grove Public Library or
It's a
on
hybrid.
Zoom.
It'll be on Zoom, or some people can come
Yep.
to. You can go to your house too.
Yeah, you can come to my house in Fargo. You can come play a field trip. Stop at St. John's on the way up. Mile marker 168. Thank you all so much. I hope you learned something. Don't forget, you can take trading cards from this pile, blank trading card. You will need chocolate after listening to me talk. Grab a pencil. Take a look at those cards. Don't take them.
And, so this is the size and this is the weight.
That's a nice size and weight. That's a nice size and weight.
Oh.
Let me just.
Have to be on. And she said be able to.
Gonna stop recording.